America. Public service, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Short.
Thank you, Mrs. Warning. Do have a number of board members online and also in person tonight. Athletic Committee meeting Tuesday, April 26th, 2022 at 5 p.m. We're here to have a review and discuss the Gateway High School baseball and softball fields. Just to inform our public, going back almost a year, we approved and authorized the artificial turf for both the baseball and softball fields. We have spent the last really 8-9 months reviewing specs, getting in play all of the different components of the renovation, which does include JTSA, and that's JT Sowers and Associate Sports Architectural Firm, and also Shaw Sports Turf. And tonight we do have Ray Battistill, who's worked with the district going on almost 12 years. More than that a little bit. So Ray's here to provide a little bit of information upcoming. But also I wanted to at least provide everyone, and Micah, are you able to pull out the existing overview of the fields through Google Earth? Lights a little bit. And I do have a picture in the handouts here for the board members and everyone to look at. Is that too dark? No, that's perfect. That's fine?
It's good for me.
We can't see the pictures.
Well, we can look up at the board real quick.
No.
Micah, if you want to blow up the fields, we do
up the
have
fields.
your faces there. What do you see?
That's perfect. Thank you, Mrs. Warren.
Just doing my job as the chair.
Yeah, and I'll have everyone refer to their drawing if you want to look at it as well through that way.
Just dozed off there for a minute.
Real quick, we do have an overview of our current facility at the high school. You see the competition baseball field as well as the softball field. And this area right here is what we refer to as really our physical education field. Whenever we spec'd and went out to bid, and ultimately the board did approve the artificial turf baseball and softball field for the viewing public and for our board members, it was right before the onset of COVID. We weren't sure where the district was going to be financially. We knew we were working within the parameters of the bond that Mr. Schott had passed or forwarded to the board, and the board had passed for roughly $45 million for the renovation of Gateway Middle School. And in addition to the fields here would be the fields at Gateway Middle School. These two areas were identified as the highest need for the district for both baseball and softball. This area up here, initially, we thought we would be able to artificial turf that area. We decided against it because of cost. Bob, I don't know if you want to spend a few minutes and just kind of review some of the features with what Benny Palumbo will be doing.
Sure, whenever you're.
Go right ahead. I'll turn it over to you.
What we will be doing here the end of May, early June, is stripping all the topsoil, giving that to some different folks that are looking to have topsoil so we don't have to pay to haul it away. Pitcairn Borough was one of them that would like to have some of that as well. So what he'll be doing though, coming in, removing fences, stripping topsoil, and then proceeding to dig the base for all the water retention that is necessary, for AstroTurf fields. Excuse me, Ray, I didn't mean to use your competitor's name there. And by doing that, and that takes quite a bit. There's a lot of dirt, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 300 truckloads that will be hauling to the field behind us, the library field, to build that up.
And how many inches would that go down roughly?
Some of the trenches are 4 foot deep by 6 foot wide. The length of the fields and filled with gravel, so it's quite a bit. And then a lot of fingers throughout the entire thing to run the water off. What you'll see though, the dirt fields have a crown. The turf fields will be flat. All of the crowns will be subsurface. So they are there to run the water, but not visible or felt above. So he'll be doing that, moving the softball field approximately 7 feet towards Route 48 to give us space between the fields for a walkway.
And that was what I was going to highlight right now is this field right here, the softball field, would be pushed forward.
Does that include home plate?
Yes.
The entire field gets slid 7 to 7.5 feet.
How does that affect the lighting?
We took that into consideration when we put the lighting in, and we had it set up for that, as well as
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to address too with the board and our viewing public is when they design this softball field, you will see how we have the dugouts that are not really proportional to the way the field exists right now as far as location. One is almost directly behind
home
home
plate,
plate.
and the other is also in an awkward position. So we're going to put them in a proper position and rebuild those dugouts for softball.
So you just close that off and redo where you have the dugouts?
I'm
Or
sorry.
Yeah, the dugouts will be removed and built up.
Removed, and they're cement block.
Oh,
Is what they are. So Benny will put in the pads and get all the concrete work in, and then we'll have the dugouts done outside of the contract so we don't have to do prevailing wage. You know, they're smaller jobs that we can do with just on a 3-bid process.
So allowing this field to move forward will then allow for essentially a walkway into the facility, because what we've seen over the years, not only with our games, but also for PIL, PIAA games, when we mobilize and move people into this area, a lot of times we gotta have 2 or possibly 3 entry areas. And a lot of people just try to enter here, stand behind the fence, makes it difficult to contain.
And it's also a long, long way around. If you're parked behind the sports complex, where most of our parking is, and you're going to a baseball game, it's quite a distance to walk around the perimeters.
Now, ideally, what we had originally proposed, and I know Ray was involved in these conversations a couple of years ago, was to utilize this whole area for artificial turf, allowing for a 50, 60-yard practice field for either band, soccer, lacrosse, a number of the sports that we have, but also the opportunity exists to have this area domed in the winter through sponsorship. And we've seen a lot of these areas, trying to think of one.
Yeah, no off-season sports.
Yes, no off-season sports where they're coming in and setting up these air inflated domes that come down over a 4 or 5 month period. The rental fees for those are incredible.
Well, Neil Walker also just signed on. They added a second bubble. I don't know if you guys were aware. Yeah, so they added a second dome air structure, and Neil Walker's now part of that, bringing in a lot of the baseball. So they're what they're calling is the showcase, baseball showcase here in Western Pennsylvania. Just because the weather that we have obviously doesn't allow for that. So you're 100% right, Dr. Short, when you say 4 to 5 months. Absolutely, that thing is sold out for those months.
Is there,
Hourly rates,
That you can set your
3
price.
to
You can set your
400
price.
an hour. It's
is
ridiculous.
there enough area, Coach, for, are we talking soccer up there?
Not quite, but I was gonna ask that
Be
exact
all
question.
purpose.
If we, how big is the area from the outfield fence of softball plus, a normal distance to
Softball
the,
fence
to the
is
parking lot?
210.
Well, how far is it from the fence to the perimeter of the parking lot?
It's
Is it about
just
80 yards?
Yeah, it's just under 100 yards.
Because I was thinking, and again, I realize we're talking about even additional, but we could probably push a little farther into that parking lot.
That
if we
was
had to.
certainly one of our options when we first looked at.
I've included
This print?
within the
was,
packet,
certainly.
one of the original drawings that when we were working with, Allegheny Health Network. You will see the area that was proposed, which is what, Mr. Hall was explaining up by the, phys ed field.
Yeah, if the phys ed extended a little bit
Yes.
into the parking lot, we could probably get to at least a regulation field of some sports, maybe not quite soccer, but maybe lacrosse.
The biggest problem is
Width.
really the width is very tight.
Gotcha.
As far as doing that, it's just, that's why it was more of a practice area
Sure.
versus a game area.
Mike, I see you have the measuring tape out. Are you able to maybe give us a rough dimension of this area?
Yeah, I just didn't know what to measure exactly.
Bring it down further, almost by the outfield fence and softball.
So down here,
Yes, do a rectangle the whole way up through the phys ed baseball field up top. Make it a rectangle.
And yeah, extend it a little bit into the parking lot.
How many yards? Width?
the width is. Oh, I have to remove the points if you want a width. Hold on.
My God, stinks. Could you go a little farther into the fence line too?
Well, we can always go,
On the other side of the parking lot,
into the parking lot.
In both, even because he was kind of cutting it
side.
narrowly.
Okay, the width right here was about 150 feet.
50 yards.
50 yards.
But it takes you fence to fence.
One of the
roughly.
main
Step
objectives
parking
of
lot
all
out that
this
way, take more of the space.
is to get kids or students involved. And that is so important to the well-being of students today, is to get them acclimated, get them involved, have them participating in an activity, whether or not it's outdoors or indoors, to ensure that they're part of a learning community. And
Team, games, whatever, anything.
anything. And if we're able to accomplish that, ironically, this winter, spring has really been one of the worst that we've ever dealt with rain. Yesterday 85 degrees, today 40 degrees.
55. Come on, Dr. Stewart.
55, it felt like 30.
Let me ask, okay, you were saying expand to have other band or
Yes.
other things going on, and would that be more wear and tear for what we're doing, or the fact we rent it out will make the money back, or
It
what?
would be in addition to what we've already approved. Meaning we've approved the baseball and softball for artificial turf. One of the questions came up from the board that, okay, should we revisit this area to allow more opportunities for other sports practice areas to enhance participation?
But that's why I'm saying more wear, wouldn't
Yes.
that be more wear and tear, or are you looking at that in terms of if we rent it out, then it's going to make it more cost
I
effective?
was gonna say, maybe conversely, if you would say you'd have less usages on the stadium surface, you could then have less wear and tear on the stadium over time, because some of your teams could practice up here. Our middle school would have the ability to practice.
The stadium right now acts as football, lacrosse, soccer, baseball practice, softball practice, marching band.
So it's like, you're gonna pay one place versus the other, yeah.
All the time.
And one thing about turf in general is that you do reach sort of not unlimited, but there was at one point in some research years ago, if you have more than 75 uses of a field in a given year, grass is going to be gone. So we can have hundreds of events on all these fields, and they still hold up. There's no limit really on what you can do on them.
You're exactly right. That's one of the main reasons we installed the turf football field, because we had, I think, 73 events from the beginning of September till the end of October.
As soon as it rained.
No way the grass would have held up.
Some fields you could watch, you could look at a film and say, this is week 7, because how much of the grass was gone by that point. You know,
But just to be clear, so what Ms. Delaney is obviously asking is, right, this is more usable than grass, but if you didn't use the field at all, it would last forever. So if no one went on the artificial turf, it would last forever. If you used the average amount, what we're doing right now, is it 11 years? Is it 12 years? What do we actually get out of it?
Ray could
Yeah,
probably
if I-
answer
yeah,
that,
don't
yeah.
mind me
Yeah,
answering
yeah,
that.
sure.
So what we've done in Western Pennsylvania, because again, having fields all over the country, and I'll just do it conversely with comparison to a Florida, Texas, New Mexico, California, that has a lot of sunlight. Because UV does damage the turfs, as we all know too. But with the cloud cover that we experience here, we are actually getting about 4 to 5 more years in our area than what you would in Florida and all that. So to get to your question, these fields are warranted for 8 full years, okay? And part of the reason for that is because in 8 years in Florida, Texas, those fields are being replaced, regardless of how much play, because the UV and the power of the UV really breaks those down. Here, we've been actually seeing anywhere from 10 to 14 years. Now, I know we just replaced your football field after 10 years.
Yeah.
And the reason was, exactly like Scotty and Bob Brown just said, was the amount of use that was on those. Because obviously the UV is not breaking down. It was the amount of use when you start talking about all of those. So to get to and answer you specifically, we're looking at a 12-year life expectancy on these fields. Now, baseball and softball, we're even expecting more, because really the only high-use areas that you have are batter's box areas, catcher's areas, and the 2 sliding areas, not even third base as much, but second and first sliding areas. However, when we put in, and with Dr. Short and Bob Brown's input, hey, we're going to have extra turf that we would normally throw in a dumpster. Even Dawn had mentioned, hey, I saw so much turf being thrown in a dumpster. It's brand new turf, but it's unusable for us. Well, if we use that turf for replacement of batter's box areas and catching areas and sliding areas, it is of minimal, when I say minimal cost, that's just us coming in, cutting out a batter's box and putting that in. It takes all of maybe 2 hours. Okay, so now you're getting those high-use wear areas replaced, so therefore the turf fields on the baseball, softball are going to last. It's no different than on your game field where you have a lacrosse area, goal area, and the soccer area, where you have a lot of use in that area. And again, even though we tell the coaches, hey, if you could move around and try to put the goals somewhere else, we see it happen very, very infrequently. So those areas are always high-use areas on a football, soccer, lacrosse field, or multi-purpose field. It's no different on a baseball field. So to answer your question, the baseball field's going to last a lot longer, but on a gym class, band, all the sports we just mentioned on that practice field, we're expecting the 12-year life expectancy out of that.
And let me say too, that when we first did the football field, it cost us back then, 2001, like 1.3 million. And what we wanted to do through the athletic department was have advertising and have the kickoff lasting and put money aside, because we knew in 8 to 10 years we'd have to replace the turf. And we were thinking that when we replaced the turf, it would be 1.3 again.
Yeah.
But it was, because the base is already done, they did all the drains and all that. I think we replaced it for around 350.
Yeah, 350, 400.
The big cost is up front.
Right, right.
And when you replace, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Scotty, you're 100% correct on that. And just to give some valid points to that, Western Pennsylvania is one of the oldest territories actually in the country. The very first field of this type with the infield was at Ringgold High School. And since then, you know, a lot of the school districts went with it. And that was in 98 was when Ringgold was put in. So, you know, we're talking a 24 to 25 year history in Western Pennsylvania. So again, being one of the oldest territories and the improvements with the synthetic turfs that we've made, I can tell you that the replacement turfs that we've done, and we can name Penn Trafford, Norwin, Greensburg, Salem, obviously Gateway, all of these fields, the only thing that we had to do with base was regrade. And that regrading is part of taking the turf off anyhow. So there is no, as Scotty just mentioned, no extra cost to that base. And that's been for 2 life cycles. And we're even expecting more out of that. So.
You saw that Michael just superimposed the field onto that phys ed field space there.
Yeah, phys ed's.
One of the features that we've talked about, and we have an existing chain link fence that surrounds the entire field. And it's worn, it's torn, it's been beaten up over 2 decades now with anything from baseballs, softballs being thrown at it to bodies being thrown at it. Lawn cutters, yeah, you're right. So the poles are essentially intact. They look good. I mean, they could be almost, I don't want to say powder coated, but painted. But, you know, we want to replace the inside meshing of the fence to enhance things a little bit better. And there is a product out there. Micah, are you able to take that one piece of netting that I sent to you? Not that one, the other one. Yes. This is what you're seeing in major league parks nowadays. It's a fiber that's constructed and it's almost steel-like, where a ball is not able to pass through it. And this is a brand new coated product that makes it appear green in nature, but when you're in the stands looking through it, it's virtually see-through, 95%. And from the years of having the bleachers up at the stadium, a lot of times parents, and I've noticed this, they will go to the top of the bleacher to have a bird's eye view above the chain link fence because they're unable to see. So this netting, I know we shared it with Benny Palumbo, and they were going to get a cost on this just to replace on the inside of that chain link fence to allow for sight lines to be better. Micah, do you want to go to the next feature? Pull up, there's a drop bar at the top there where it says stadium padding. And go to, what's the?
Stadium wall pads.
One right below there. No, dugout rail pads. You've seen these in various colleges, universities, Pirates, PNC. Just allows for a more safer area whenever kids are in the dugouts, if there's a foul ball, et cetera. Something that we may want to look at. Also, Dawn had mentioned the outfield walls. Is there a, go up to that stadium padding? Outfield wall pads or stadium, yeah, try that. Go to stadium wall pads. Right above it, right above it.
Thank you.
That's not the one I'm looking for, but drop down again, Micah.
Are you talking about replacing the dugouts also?
No, the dugouts are actually fine.
Could you scroll
Baseball.
Scroll down, please, on stadium. So there's no pictures down there at the bottom. Okay. Thank you.
I did include within your folder. An outfield wall picture. That is through Champion Wall. You want to look that one up, Micah? Champion Wall?
What's that made of?
We looked at it, Bob. Was it? That was the,
It's like a synthetic skin is what it is. And
Go over a fence or?
well, I saw a CCAC did something similar from looked like a lesser product. Now with that being more of a solid type fence and with the wind, the posts have to be upgraded.
again, it allows for a more aesthetic looking field, but also gives the district an opportunity for branding, sponsorship. I've talked to a local business. They are on board with sponsorship. So I will be speaking with the board about that in the near future.
This
What
is,
about Sheets.
Sheets is another
this
business
is
that-
going where? Where are you,
The outfield of the baseball stadium.
Okay.
baseball.
And softball.
it would have to be, because they're connected almost.
What?
And you're saying softball, we're gonna go,
No, they will not.
you talking hitting 48 on this?
No, that's the baseball field.
That goes toward the
Yeah.
athletic building.
This one, that was the home plate.
And by the way, OES Scoreboards
All right,
does
we're
have
over
the
there. Okay.
horizontal option.
They do.
They have a bunch of examples on their website that have a link to my.
For scoreboards as well, put into the field. That's, I should say.
Yes, my main concern about all this is, you know, I want to get away from the right way, the wrong way, and the gateway. Used to be up here, and the gateway was always the wrong way. And being that we're going to do this, let's do it right the first time. And, you know, I'd like to see blueprints of how far the turf extends. And I think we should extend, you know, I don't know if this job blueprint is helpful or not, but even in the batting cages for them to warm up, you know, make sure there's turf in there for both boys and girls.
Plan to move those batting cages, not to be in the prime spot of visually seeing the fields. We didn't include it, but with the turf that they have to cut away, we're gonna use that. But
And the concern also is that if we do this now, it'd be cheaper to do it now than come back 2 years from now and try to get it done. And, you know, the concern is with these outfield out here, people walk on top of it, then, you know, they'll walk on the fields and bring the debris onto the fields. And I don't know what the transition is between the grass and the turf, how that would play out, especially over at the junior high where they just want to turf the infield. Now you're going to have kids running off the grass and, you know, a safety concern because if it's wet in the grass, there's more probability to slip there. Then they'll bring the debris in.
absolutely.
And
Ray, you
as
wanna-
Ray was mentioning earlier,
Penn Trafford?
we have some neighbors who have done just the infield
And
within the last few years, and they're already going back. Norwin's the prime example.
they're going to do
They're
it all.
going and saying, okay, that was a bad call, and they're pricing out, spending a lot more money to do their outfields
Right.
now.
And another neighbor
What's the
that
other one?
just did it, down the street at PT, their outfield is grass, and with the weather that we had this time of year, it's trashed. It's, it's in real bad shape. I don't see them
And I don't want
waiting too long before they end up doing the same thing.
And I don't want to overstate the obvious, but when the entire thing is turfed, including that phys ed field or the middle school outfield, you're eliminating all grass growing products, all aeration, all paint, all manpower to mow that and to seed it and to do all the things you do on a normal grass structure. I mean that, and then again, you're gaining usable space almost year round.
That frees up the maintenance department.
100%.
Oh,
Weeds,
God.
mice, moles. The entire spring sports schedule. on the phone every day, changing content.
It's a mess. And it's not just a mess here, but it's a mess a lot of places that
They won't.
don't have turf.
So no one's questioning any of this. The bottom line is, of course, always the bottom line.
Yeah.
So no one is doubting the utility, the benefit, the usefulness to the school, to the community. This is all about cost. So I don't know precisely what the difference is between the right way and the wrong way and the gateway. Scotty, you've been here for forever, so if there's a gateway, it's your fault. I just want to say
Like he said.
that's on you. So
We will officially price this out. We'll work with Ray, and the benefit is Benny and the crew is on site here within a month and a half. So if there is an opportunity to do it, and we'll talk to the board and talk to Mr. Schott, and also maybe tighten up some sponsorship numbers that can come in as well. We'll do an a la carte itemized list and get this information to the board ASAP at the May meeting.
And we're projecting for fall.
This project would be done for the fall.
Okay.
Yes,
We're also looking at Gateway Middle, correct?
correct.
So I'm sure everyone's heard from baseball families, baseball players. You know, baseball's always gotten shortchanged at Gateway. You know, I played baseball at Gateway a long time ago. I remember having infield practice on the parking lot behind South Junior High with rubber-coated baseballs. So this seems like getting baseball to where it belongs, getting softball to where it belongs. There's going to be a cost, so everyone should prepare themselves for that. But
Let's see what the costs are.
there you go.
Oh, sure. If I might just interject too, I mean, with you guys already having the baseball and the softball approved, have you guys looked into the rentals of these two fields with all the different organizations that are out there now?
We know exactly what we currently have with dirt and grass fields, and it is heavily used, especially over the summer. AAU, and even talking to Sean Logan from Visit Monroeville. That is their number one income resource with hotels in Monroeville over the weekends. So, we know that our fields are heavily used. There's also an organization from Trafford.
Atlantic Coast Baseball, which also works with Visit Monroeville and us quite a bit.
The one added addition would be the availability to use it 24/7 instead of just a couple games a day because of the upkeep, lights. So, I mean, it would be used a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the reason I brought it up too is just the luxury that you guys have, obviously, with the outfields is, some of the ones that we had mentioned, neighboring schools that only have the infields, some of those games are still being canceled because of outfields and whatnot. So tournaments are still being, where in this case, and I'm not telling you something you guys don't already know, you're in a prime location with the highways, easy to get to, how to do it. And then the event of not having the remote chance that these games will be canceled because of this. From a rental and that kind of information, you guys can really, I think, do very well for yourselves from that standpoint too. Just what we've seen, because people are always calling me saying, "Hey Ray, what fields you guys working on? Because we need more fields. It's always more and more and more because these organizations are not getting smaller."
And they're no longer in-house leagues; they're travel leagues.
They're kind of going away, and the travel leagues are
And I'm going to tell you
taking
the,
over.
Yeah, and the women's sports from, I don't care if it's lacrosse, if it's softball, the soccer, it is growing exponentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just exploding, and we don't see any slowdown with that either.
So can you actually get us the number from last year, for example, what we actually generated in revenue?
May I recommend like 3 years ago because of COVID and everything? And,
Pick a year. I thought last year.
We can't,
Rebound year.
and it wasn't a great number because of being on dirt. and then fitting it in. So
That would be,
We'll get you the
what would be ideal would be to compare like whatever, a 3-year average.
Yeah.
And then what we could potentially do with the fields we're gonna have.
we should be able to look that up fairly easily.
Okay. Any questions?
Scott, if
The LED lights, I don't know if, Bob, Dawn, you want to mention those? They're in, or what's the status?
I'm
I have
sorry,
that
I
on the
was just-
agenda.
if you would have some time here in the next day or two, I'd like to get with you to see exactly, because there's different areas up there beyond our playing surface as far as continuing the turf. If you'd have an hour, tomorrow or Friday or, this way we're getting the areas exactly what you'd like to see, taken care of.
No, I got no problem with that.
The lighting, that's obviously they're all up. They're finishing the wiring to be able to turn them on for Thursday night's senior night, to have it under the lights, as well as Friday night for softball senior night. So we won't have them on our phones that night, but we'd be able to, turn them on manually to have them all lit up.
And the most recent part was the uplights, because if we remember from the way the LED lights work, they're very focused down on the field, and you need light above there. Usually we counted on the bleed of halogen lights, where you don't have any bleed. So you need lights that shine, about parallel to the pole, straight up above, to see the ball when it exceeds the height of the light pole. Those are up and in place. And again, we didn't have working softball lights, which was part of the impetus to do the light project when we did for night games. And we added, for the foreseeable future, until the middle school project is done, we have the additional softball team over here too. So they'll be able to play after school and still play later games with our high school girls under the lights, like we do with the boys as well, with an additional middle school baseball team.
Now, are they gonna do the fields over at the junior high this summer too, or no?
No, we'll do those
Next summer.
Or next spring, start into that. We're trying to get the group that's all outside at the project across the road, get them more inside. As you'll see in a little while here, a new drone video, how packed it is with all the workers and supplies and materials going in and out. It's pretty tight right now. So we want to get this side of the highway done and then move over there for next, this way it'll be ready for their seasons.
Can I ask, up at the baseball fields where the light posts are, they're still open, is there a way they can fill those in?
Those are all, the old ones, they have to be cut below the surface and then they'll be filled in.
Well, I know like last night, they have boards that are sticking up with nails coming out, just to make sure that they're gone for our next event up there. They're coming out of the holes.
Next event is Thursday. It's like, that stuff should all be done, cleaned up and ready to turn on.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're wanting to get done. They're bringing extra bodies for the wiring because it takes more people to try to pull it. The old ones have to be cut below the surface and they'll just be filled in, and in a month or so, that'll all be gone and, be under turf anyway.
Okay.
So we anticipate the end of the season for baseball and softball. Late May, early June.
Late May.
Yeah, May 13th is the end of the regular season for the boys, May 12th for the girls. So we're looking at, hopefully, the girls, it doesn't look like there's really a chance to make the playoffs, but the boys could certainly make the playoffs if they finish strong.
Then early June, mobilize, start tearing up and getting order.
We skipped over scoreboards. What are we doing with the scoreboards?
We mentioned the scoreboards, that, there's an opportunity, and Dawn had stated that embedded in one of the walls, you could do a horizontal
Yeah, there's the ability to embed it like, so you see in some major league parks and some college parks, but there's also the ability to put the scoreboard above the outfield wall. But still, I think what we're aiming for, and again, when you think of the quality of the scope of this project, and even to what Jack said about baseball getting some really great treatment, is we want to see a big time scoreboard. We want to see a horizontal inning by inning scoreboard, runs, hits, errors, Gateway logo on the top. I mean, they make it with video boards in them too. I don't know that we need video boards, but I do think having that horizontal scoreboard that says a little more than just your average scoreboard is, not to use a trite word, but it's kind of big time. It kind of looks the part, and we want to have that. And that, like the Brockport one on the left there, is a Division III school in New York. If we had a sponsor, we could put a sponsor on there. But again, it has inning by inning, runs, hits, errors. When a play is ruled a hit or an error by the official scorer, who's up, ball strike out, the whole deal with the teams listed on there. To me, that's a baseball scoreboard right there. And I'm excited about it. Something like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Killed that scoreboard.
Yeah.
Can't we get that one you just hang the numbers on? Like,
That's why they put that one up there. They were the home team.
Purple over there.
Yeah.
I agree with what Mr. Williams said. If we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Instant replay, hot dogs.
Well, there is a sound system going in, and part of that wiring that's going on, John. Part of the wiring that's occurring, we're putting in a sound system. I mean, we want to announce our batter coming up. We want to have walk-up music. We want to do it like they do it at the biggest level.
Cards, throw the first ball out, have them get them up here. Sign some autographs.
Okay.
yeah.
Need some serious sponsors.
Got about 10 minutes before we start the next one.
Good.
Thank you, Michael.